Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment talk show that covers New York Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, TV shows, and some funny stories and some life lessons mixed in for good measure. It's hosted by a Giant Mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch. I'm a former college quarterback and pitcher, film and media studies major, turned overthinker. And I'm quite the stinker. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about my second ever pig roast. You got to see how, I guess, the cavemen did it. No, pigs weren't around when the cavemen were around. It's barbaric, but it was a good time. I also got my first ever ultrasound echocardiogram. Never had that before, and it was quite the experience. Thought I had one before. Turns out I've never had one before. That is some old people shit. I'm getting old. If you are young and you're turned off by this, apologies, but you're gonna have to deal with it at some point, unless you're gonna pull like a friggin' Jimi Hendrix, Kirk Cobain. What's the one singer's name? Amy Winehouse. Unless you want to pull something like that, you're going to deal with an ultrasound echocardiogram. So let's hope, pray that turns out to be all right. Also, I took my daughter to the Peaches and Sunflower Festival. Should you fear for your life at the Peaches and Sunflower Festival? Apparently so. We may or may not talk about some TV shows that I have watched that are in my queue that I just finished up or that I just started. And that includes Arnold, the 3-part miniseries, documentary series on Arnold Schwarzenegger on Neflix, Quarterback, which released kind of like about a month ago, more than a month ago on Netflix. Hard Knocks, episode 1, brief thoughts on that. Untold Johnny Manziel story, which is about a little over an hour on Netflix. And we'll talk some Mets and Giants to wrap things up. Hopefully, the Mets sold half the team, not half the team, they dealt half the team. And we'll just look at okay, where could we have done better, And also, what does the future hold? Why are people acting the way they act? So I guess is really what I'm trying to get at. And then with the Giants had their first preseason game against the Lions. I got to watch one half of the game. So I'll get my thoughts on that, along with some other reactions to some major stories and headlines going on. So without further ado, with that fucking mammoth, epic intro out of the way, let us get it started up in here. All right, some life stories right off the bat. I had my daughter this past weekend, the weekend before. I was without San's daughter, so I got to do me, But it's been a while since I recorded. Last time I recorded was 1st of August, I think. And it's now 2 weeks later. What happened last week? Good question. I don't know. I forget. It's just it's all kind of a blur at this point. I can't even believe we're halfway through August. Like, what the fuck just happened? It feels like I just went to that wedding in Virginia, which was July 1st. It was legitimately 6 weeks ago. And it just feels like everything was just whoosh. Fast forward through all that. So my daughter had a bit of a rough day. What was it, 2 weeks ago? On that Wednesday that I was supposed to get her. Didn't go into school, which is technically camp now. And so her mother dropped her off at my place, and her mom had bought her a Barbie set. And I was like, all right, cool. This is cool. And within, 5 minutes, my daughter had taken all the clothes off of Barbie. Barbie was friggin' nude, big time, in my apartment. Wish it was actually Margot Robbie, but it is actual Barbie toy. Full on nude. Still no nipples. But the weird thing is, my daughter goes, yeah, why doesn't she wear any panties? And I was just like, I don't know if I'm equipped to answer that. I didn't really have Barbies growing up. My sister had a Barbie. I might have played with it in the shower once. No big deal. You know, I was young, I was 8. What do you want me to do? TMI. But she was like, why doesn't Barbie wear panties? And I was just like, I don't, is that like a customary? Is that normal for Barbie not to wear panties? She seems like the kind of gal who can pull it off and go commando, and just let the wind do what it do, you know? Like, why bother with panties? I guess, you know, that seems like a very Barbie thing to do. And then she handed the nude Barbie to me, and I'm seeing like you look where the panties should be, and there looks like it's textured. Has some kind of like design as if she is wearing panties, but they're like nude or flesh colored panties. But why not just give her panties? I don't know. I don't understand. I feel like panties are a big, like you can change outfits on Barbie. You can change the panties. That's just not who she is. And I respect that. So that was interesting to find out. We ended up watching the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's finally available on streaming on Peacock TV, August 3rd. I kind of maybe asked my daughter at some point, like when it first came out in, I guess, April, right? It would have been April. Like, do you want to go see it? And she was like, no. And then, of course, like her entire pre-K graduation ceremony and show was based on and themed to Mario Brothers. And so, and then she's been saying some things here and there. I'm like, where did you hear that? What's going on? And it turns out, oh yeah, it's all from the movie. It's all from the movie. So she had seen the movie, just not with me. I'm not bummed about it. You are. So that was enjoyable for me, just knowing like, okay, she's about to turn 5. And like when I turned 5 is probably when I started playing Nintendo and got Mario Brothers, like the original Super Mario Brothers on NES. So it feels like that's a pretty good bonding experience and moment. And I mean, the critics were not very kind to it. I don't know why, but and the audiences loved it. I loved it. You know, I still think Chris Pratt as Mario is a little bit of a weird choice. Charlie Day as Luigi is like, you can't get any better than that. I forget who voices Princess Peach, but I thought it was a wise choice. Fairly well. And like Jack Black as Bowser, dude, like it doesn't get any better than that. And I find myself singing his Peaches song like a lot, maybe a little bit too much. And especially since we went to the Peach Festival, it was like peaches, 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 peaches. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the movie. We watched it a few times over the course of the past 2 weeks. I also got to catch the Mark Normand special on Netflix. If you're not familiar with comedian Mark Normand, oh my gosh, dude, one of the best. I've known him. I've known of him. I know him. I know of him. I never met him, but I want to say at least 10 years that I've known him. Around 10 years. He has a couple podcasts. One's called Tuesdays with Stories with another comedian, Joe List, who apparently is in this new Louis C.K. movie that he is being heralded for, called 4th of July, I think it's called. And but the other podcast he has is We Might Be Drunk with Sam Morrill, who is I just watched one of his specials recently on Netflix that I thought was awesome. So highly recommend that. I've never seen a comic in a special rattle off like they say, who's they? Great question. Stand-up comedy experts, aficionados say that you should go for a joke per minute. And if you can get under a minute per joke or, you know, multiple jokes per minute, then you're doing just right, just fine. But most specials, you know, that you would think they would apply for like a 5-minute appearance on Leno, Letterman, O'Brien, Conan. I don't know why I call him O'Brien. Seth Meyers, like when they appear on those shows, like it's, yeah, you need to have, if you're only up there for 5 minutes, you can't have 5 jokes, right? But in a special, hour-long special, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to be up here for a while. The ability to rattle off multiple jokes per minute is like, whoa. And I think it might even be 1 joke per 30 seconds. Mark Normand hits that and more, like in an hour special, where it's just, I mean, multiple jokes. Like almost every sentence is a joke. One of the best to ever do it. So I highly recommend that. It's on Netflix, which it's weird. I'm not a member of any guild. I know the writer's strike is going on. I'm not a member of any guild, but apparently like I'm listening to a lot of podcasts with celebrities, entertainers that I like to follow. And like, they're not allowed to mention their projects on streaming services because of the writer's strike. I guess because the streaming services like Netflix and Peacock are not paying their writers. So we're not supposed to say their names. I'm not a member of the guild, so I'm going to say their names. You want to accept me to the guild and pay me like a writer, even like the worst paid writers, then I will not say the streaming service's name. It's in the ball's in your court, Writers Guild. How did I flip that around? What? So yeah, Mark Normand on the N-word, as they say. They can't say Netflix, so they say the N-word. And then I followed that with a Stavros Halkias special. My buddy who hosted the pig roast that I went to initially turned me on to Stavros, and I've, he does these little, especially during the NFL season, he does these, he's a Ravens fan, he's from Baltimore. And so he does these like quick 60-second reaction videos every week for Ravens games. And they're so perfect. I mean, I went to school in Baltimore, and so I'm very familiar with that accent. I was down there for 5 years. No big deal. And I don't know if it was called Fat Rascal. It's on YouTube though. So if you go to YouTube and you Google and YouTube Stavros Halkias, search for that name. He has a crowd work special that he just released that I kind of watched part of, and I was like, all right, I get it. This is all very cool, but like 30 plus minutes of crowd work, it's a bit much. I don't know. But his hour-long special on YouTube, which came out, I think last year or the year before, he's wearing like a leopard print shirt. And he's just, oh God, just visually a funny dude, audibly a funny dude. Like the way he says things, how he looks, it's just like you are a comedian through and through. So he's blowing up, and I only assume he's only going to get bigger and bigger, both physically and in terms of fame. It's just some of the stuff he talks about kind of gives me hope in a weird way. I don't know. Like I started listening to his podcast too, Stavi's World, and he has some great interviews on there. But it's interesting to see a guy like him, because it feels like he's straight out of the 80s or something like that. Like a comedian you would see, like almost like the baby of Gallagher and like Richie Anderson. No, that's not his name. Is it? Louis Anderson. That's the one. Yeah. Like, yeah. The child of Gallagher, Louis Anderson. Oh boy. So yeah, he's Greek. So if you're Greek, you got to represent, right? He went off like big time on Italians. I think it was the Mark Normand episode, the interview with Mark Normand, and he went off on Italians, and I was like, I'm a quarter Italian, so I was like a quarter offended, but it was also like, yeah, you're kind of spot on. The things you're saying, whoa. You're kind of spitting facts. It was almost a little too, it's like, yes, you're speaking the truth, but do you have to be that adamant about it? Whoa, dude. You really hate Italians. So yeah, I ended up going to, as I mentioned, the pig roast at my fraternity brother's place up, I want to say Maplewood area. I don't know if that's giving away too much. Right off 78 near Newark in the Oranges. Oh, Jesus. And this is I guess my second ever pig roast. The first one I talked about when I went down to South Carolina, and I literally was standing next to the pig roasting in the box for a good hour before I was like, so when are we going to start cooking the pig? And they were like, it's a pig in a box. So that was my first ever pig roast, I guess. And that was in a box. This one was on a spit, rotating spit, which that was a trip watching him put that together. It's his first ever pig roast that he's been done. He's did. He's done a lamb roast before. This is a pig roast. And to see him prepare it, I was like, oh, this is bad. Like, it's just tough to watch, especially with someone like me that's kind of a pussy when it comes to that stuff. Like, seeing him take the spit, the metal pole, and just shoving it right up the pig's booty all the way through out the mouth, I was just like, oh man. And even to like say, when you have, okay, so there's a situation sexually where two people, probably men, are on either side of a lady, and that's she got what do they call it? That's all I could think about while he was doing that. I was like, oh man. And you're looking at the pig and you're like, brother, it's probably the best you're dead. You probably, can you imagine like someone told the pig before that happened, like, hey, bud, you're about to die. There's nothing you can do to get out of it. But do you want to know what happens to you after you die? And the pig is probably like, yeah, of course. And they're like, ooh, well, someone's going to take a pole and just drive it right through you from butt to mouth. And then we're going to just rotate you over a fire for a cool 5 hours and then have at you. Yeah. And it's funny, like my mom, like, I don't know, I'm thinking about wills and last testaments and all that shit. And it's like, I would like the following. And it's like, well, it's so funny that you can write whatever you want. Doesn't mean it's going to actually happen. Like, you dead. There's nothing much you can do after that. So, just watching him prepare it was like, I don't know if I think I might be vegan now. I don't know. Maybe. And then when he had to, I think he had it too high up, the spit or whatever you want to call it was too high up above the fire. And so we had to lower it. And then explicit content warning right here, right now. You want out? Bail out. I'm fine with it. I don't care. Or just fucking maybe 30 seconds, 15 seconds a minute. I don't think I'm going to talk about this for that long. Okay. Lowers the pig and the eyes just bulge out of the skull. The eyes are still there. And it just like, they became white and they came out of the eye sockets. It was just, and they were pointy and it was just like, what? I don't know if I want to eat this anymore. I just don't know. Now, I think I know why you guys in South Carolina had it in the box. That makes sense now. Because watching it happen, Del Grosso. And so it was good to see my buddy. I think he invited like 50 people and only 5 people showed up. And the pig he got, I've never seen a pig this small. It was, I don't even know if you can call it a baby pig. It was a small pig. I know when you think about a pig roast, like I think the one down in South Carolina was like, had to be, I don't know. How much do they usually weigh? 300, 400 pounds? Average weight pig between 110 and 770 pounds. Okay, so that's the adult pig can typically weigh between that. This pig was like 25 pounds. So divided by 5 people, it should be 5 pounds, but you're not thinking about bones and shit like that. So I think I had maybe 2 rounds, 2 plates. And I think maybe everyone, the 4 of the guys had 2 plates. One of the guys had an Australian accent and it was just like, man, how different would my life be if I had an Australian accent? It'd probably be a lot better. It'd probably be, it's not just the accent. It's just their general attitude and behavior and mentality and attitude towards life. Like everything that happens, it's like, no worries, mate. It's just like, yeah, no, there really aren't any worries, mate. That's a great call. I'm like fat, like, cause my daughter loves Bluey. And so like I'm becoming fast. I can understand why women kind of default to, if you have a British or Australian accent, that's not like super Cockney or convict. Why would you go with an American that sounds like me? Where you can hear the fat and misery. So I get it. I mean, it's like I try to imagine what this dude would say, like, because he wasn't like Chris Hemsworth, but like if this dude had an American accent, I'd be like, yeah, he's cool. But he had an Aussie accent. I was like, oh yeah, the dude is the best. I stayed over, because I was like, I drove there and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get lit. I'm gonna go to the club and get lit. So I'm gonna toss a few back, and I stayed over. Now he doesn't really have a guest room. He has two children's bedrooms, so I slept in the younger child's bed. I don't know if he wants me to tell anyone that, but specifically his son. But I slept in the kid's bed, and I was full. I wore my clothes. And that's not, I know what you're saying, oh, Neil, you lazy fuck. No, this was not a laziness. This was like, I think this is just for the best, in case something happens. Right? Beyond my control. That's what I'm trying to get at. But it was a good time. I brought a bottle of Johnny Walker Black, which threw some people off. But I was like, I mean, if he's buying this pig, it's probably X amount of dollars. He's letting me stay over. It's X, if you put a price tag on that, what's that cost? And then I brought like a case of Bud Light Seltzer, which did not go over well, which I am now 99% convinced that I have no taste buds, that my taste buds have been completely eliminated from my body. I tasted it. I'm just like, yeah, it's a fruity seltzer. Bubble water that gets you drunk. And my friend took a sip of it. And it was just like, oh, this is so disgusting. I was just like, all right, so can I get like a tongue transplant? Like, what do I do here? It's a gift and a curse. The next day I went to a brunch in Montclair, not too far away. And I don't want to get too detailed about this, but I will say, for Faubourg's, pretty decent brunch spot. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I thought the food was amazing. The hostess, with literally the mostest, dude. I don't know how old this woman is. I assume, how old do you have to be a hostess? Minimum 18. Please God, praise God. This hostess, and this is like, seems like a pretty classy joint, pretty classy outlet, like very highly reviewed and rated. The menu, it's pretty pricey. It's classy. It looks classy. This hostess looked like she was ready for a very pornographic, erotic tennis match. Okay. Mini skirt, the miniest of mini skirts, and some kind of, I don't want to say tube top, but a top without straps showing the shoulders. And I could see the outlines of her nipple rings. Like, whoa, dude. Whoa. And I was meeting a date there. I was meeting a woman for a second date. And I was like, is this a test? What's going on here? I'm being tested? Cool. Well, I fail. So, but I had a lovely time. Other than the fact that I like sitting outside for a brunch. No big deal. I like it. But I also got the swampiest of swamp ass sitting out there. Just soaked. Like we sat outside and they have like some covering, but it's not completely covered. Where it's like those thong things that you'd hang over a pool or something like that. And it's just like, this is, so now I'm going to get this really cool friggin' sunburn where I look like David Bowie or something. What the fuck? So that was fun. I went to my uncle's to pick up a few things that, because my grandmother, his mother, passed away, left a bunch of the stuff to us. And so we're kind of divvying it up as you do. And so I went over there to pick it up, hung out for a little bit. And he showed me like all the things that he's got to do to his house, which was exciting. It's kind of twofold, dual pronged. I don't even know what you say. How do you say this? But like, it's like, I think back to when we got our house in Wayne. I was like, okay, we're going to do this with the basement. We're going to do this with the attic over the garage. And it's going to be this and this and this. And I had a vision. And it was like, it all went to shit in like 2 years. But it sounds pretty pimp, like what he's got going on in his basement. Like it's going to be, I don't like saying man cave. I think it's stupid, but like, yes, I'm all on board on it. It's like, how can you not get excited about this setup that you are going to have? It just sounds amazing. I want to come over here every weekend. But it's also like, it just, the construction takes forever and the pricing and the contractors. And it's just like, woof. So best of luck to him. And then I finished Prehistoric Planet, which I don't know if I can recommend this any harder than I am. Prehistoric Planet is the best, especially if you are trying to get to sleep. It's like my go-to. I'm trying to get to sleep. I'm trying to calm myself. Usually it's a good Sunday night viewing because it's like Sunday nights are like serious scaries, hardcore scaries. So like pop that on an Apple TV, eat an edible, and it's just like sail away, sail away, sail away. So yeah, thumbs up for me, dog. Prehistoric Planet, love it. I wish that, and I understand that it probably takes a very long time, and the budget for this, like it's basically like we're gonna pay for the bulk of the budget is gonna go towards the host, the narrator. Sir Richard Attenborough, David Attenborough, who has the best voice. And then it's going to go to all special effects. The rest goes to all special effects, like 90% of the budget, which is what I think, we talked about 65, the movie with Adam Driver. And I think they did a fairly decent job with the dinosaurs there. The dinosaurs in Prehistoric Planet are the best I've ever seen. I at no point am I like, I'm watching special effects. I'm like, I'm watching a nature documentary. This is real life. This is happening in Africa right now. Not 66 million years ago. So you kind of wonder why Jurassic World didn't like spend a little more time and effort on that. Because it's like there's just a bunch of scenes in that movie trilogy, the new one, where it's just like, okay. I don't know if it was the pig roast, and I don't want to throw my buddy under the bus. I don't know if we cooked that pig long enough because my stomach got seriously fouled up after that. I mean, I went to the brunch, so I did have like steak and eggs, where the eggs was like I could break the yolk, and like that's the best, watching the yolk like pour all over the steak, and it's like, I'm a man, baby. This is manly shit. But it might have backfired because my stomach was messed up for almost a solid week, at least 4 days. I was like, was it the pig that wasn't cooked thoroughly? I also ate the pig skin, which was probably the worst decision because it was like so many flies. I saw so many flies laying on that stuff. And then also on that day where my stomach got fouled up, I literally had a debate with myself where I asked the question, am I an incel? And I think the answer is yes, but like not dangerous. Like, can you just be a harmless incel? Like, I feel like, because incel stands for involuntarily celibate, which is basically any single man, right? It's like straight man. Sorry, any single straight man. Feels like you're involuntarily celibate. Like, if you're a single woman, the choice is yours. You can go out there and you can toss it around. You can put it out there and you can probably get it done. I can't toss it out there, do a little turn on the catwalk and expect to catch anything in return. My nets have been in the water for 3 friggin' years. Let's just put it that way. But am I an incel? I don't think so. I don't blame. I've done a lot of soul searching on these dating apps. And I'm like, why isn't it anyone? And then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, if I were 32 and I saw this happening, it's not exactly, I'm not, exactly kicking down doors to get to it. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm an incel, but a harmless one. Because I feel like that term gets tossed around a lot. And I get tossed around for the Riddler and the Batman. It got tossed around in a movie I'm about to review called Don't Worry, Darling. It's just like, if you are a frustrated single straight man, you're an incel. It's like, well, yeah, sex is the best, but also is also mentally ruining me. I also had my first ever ultrasound echocardiogram, which I didn't realize for a long time that echocardiogram is different from EKG. There's ECG, I think, which is an echocardiogram, and there's an EKG, which is literally on my Apple Watch. And so when people are like, well, have you had an echocardiogram? And I'm like, dude, I take an EKG every night. I put my thumb on the dial of my Apple Watch for 30 seconds. It measures everything I need to know. And it tells me that it's a bunch of legal disclaimer about heart attacks. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm all right. So I did go to have that done. I thought I had it done before. Turns out, no. It was freaky. It freaked me out. It basically, I've been a part of the process, the pregnancy process. So I'm familiar with an ultrasound and having that happen on a lady's tummy. My ex's belly, seeing that happen and getting photos and being like, oh, there's the nose. Oh my goodness. And there's her eyes. Oh my God. So I'm familiar with that. But this was way different. It freaked me the fuck out. They put the gel on. They start you off with a couple of sensors or nodes or whatever. They stick that to my right side for some reason. And then I have to go on my left side, lay on my left side, and then they gel me up and they do the ultrasound around the kind of the left side. And if you do get it done, close your eyes. There's no reason for you to look at the screen, to look at what's happening on that screen, because it will haunt your life. The tech doesn't say anything, by the way. She basically gives you a brief preamble where it's like, if anything is critically wrong, I'm going to run out of the room and get the doctor. I'm like, okay, let's not have that happen. But I guess that's the positive, is it wasn't anything was critically dangerous where she had to run out of the room. Okay. That didn't happen. So that's good. But she also doesn't say a damn thing about anything that she's doing or anything that's going on, anything that she's seeing. I'm basically just looking at the screen. I just hear her clicking her mouse, and I just see her kind of highlighting certain areas of the heart and taking pictures. And I'm seeing screenshots and snapshots and then there are colors introduced, like reds and blues. And I'm like, red can't be good, right? Red's not good, right? Blue's good. There's a lot of red there. So this is probably really bad. And there's also a lot of flaps. And it's like, is that supposed to flap? Is it supposed to look like a tassel on a bike going by? What's going on here? I mean, at one point it looked like the wacky inflatable waving arm tube man. Literally, I was like, that's like a wacky waving inflatable tube man. That's what it looked like at one point. I'm like, probably isn't good. Like when you think about a heartbeat and you're like, boom, 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 boom. Not like a friggin' spastic octopus, dude. It's just like, all right, and she's like, I guarantee this woman's a great poker player. Like her poker face is incredible. I couldn't tell if I was fucked or not. It was just like, well, all right, I guess I'll get the results and never. See you later. I took my daughter to McDonald's because it's basically that's the rotation that I got going now. It's McDonald's and Wendy's, ever since I got my lease renewal, and they're like, yeah, we're going to charge you the maximum allowable rent. We're going to increase your rent by almost 11%, jack it up $200 per month. And you were already over budget before. Now you're way over budget. So it's like all those fancy dinners where we sit down, there's a waiter. That's not happening anymore. And I think I can get away with it now because she's like not even 5, and just like any restaurant will do. Like literally a truck stop, pit stop, anything where there's just we just sit down outside or somewhere else other than home and eat is basically that's the restaurant. So I was surprised to see, and this happened last time, and I guess I never picked up on it. You cannot add cheese to a hamburger Happy Meal. You can't add cheese to the hamburger in a Happy Meal. You can't do it. They physically will not allow you to do it. And I must have missed this headline, but I guess that was McDonald's no longer offers cheese on the hamburger in the Happy Meal as of June of last year. Whoa, where have you been, Neil? So that was, and I think last time we went to McDonald's, she didn't notice because I was like, oh my God, how did I miss adding the cheese to the burger? She's going to notice and she's not going to eat it. And then I'm going to have to, and you start to spiral. She just powered through it that time and like didn't ask any questions. This time she's like, where's the cheese? ¿Dónde está el queso? And I was like, oh yeah, they don't, you're not allowed to have cheese on it. And I thought she was going to I thought she was going to melt, but it turns out she was like completely took it in stride and devoured it anyway. But it's apparently they removed the cheese from the hamburger on the Happy Meal to get it under a certain calorie count. And I'm saying to myself, but I also removed like the pickle. First of all, why a hamburger and a hamburger Happy Meal for kids, where the majority of kids eating that friggin' Happy Meal are probably 6 years of age, why that friggin' burger has onions and a pickle and anything other than cheese and ketchup is why that's the default setting for a cheeseburger and a Happy Meal is beyond me. But then also to say you cannot add cheese even after you take off the pickle and the onions. Also, why are you serving a second side if you're trying to get the friggin' meal under 600 calories? Is cheese the first to go? No. Apple slices, my guy. Very odd. And I think she was excited because she was going to get the Marvels toy because it's all these female superheroes. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Representation matters, all that shit. And we go up and we get the Happy Meal and it's a Black Panther figurine. And I'm like, is Black Panther part of the Marvels? I mean, maybe like the new Black Panther. And then it's like, no, they either ran out of the Marvels toys, the new toy, or they're like, we got to get rid of these Black Panther toys that we've had since literally fall of 2022, like last year. I ended up getting her a soft serve vanilla ice cream and a wafer cone, which she wanted a cup because she starts to decompensate and lose it when she has like a soft serve, any kind of ice cream in a cone because it melts too quick for her. It melts way too quick. It goes all over her hand and she starts to freak out because her hand is wet and it's a whole ordeal. And I was like, no, we'll get in the cone. Don't worry, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. And especially with McDonald's soft serve, like if you like, I don't know, does anyone get brain freeze from McDonald's soft serve ice cream? It's like, it's not ice cream. It's some kind of foreign substance material. Like, you know how like bananas, the claim is that bananas aren't real fruit, I guess. Okay, sure. Why not? Genetically engineered, I guess, by man. And that's why it's like 60 cents for a dozen. I think there's the same thing going on with McDonald's soft serve ice cream. Like, it's not cream. It's something else. And it just doesn't give you brain freeze. It doesn't have the properties to give you brain freeze. So I was like, you can eat it really fast. You're not going to get brain freeze, because she was very worried about that. She's like, I'm going to get the brain. Like, she forgot brain freeze. And so I was like, no. You can eat pretty fast. And also, here's a trick. You lick, or like if you see it dripping, just lick. You can lick the cone. Like, you're going to eat the cone. Like, you're allowed to lick the cone. So you can lick if it's dripping. And the best way to do it is you just go all the way around. Just keep doing that, and it won't drip down onto your hand or whatever. And she's like, what? I don't know. What? So she couldn't grasp it. So I was like, you want me to show you? So then I was like, this is all you got to do. And I went like halfway around, and a major, huge glob of the ice cream just fell on my shorts. So I was like, in summation, to recap, I tried to show my daughter how to not let the soft serve ice cream drip anywhere and get it all over the place. And in doing so, I got it all over the place. Cool. And then like literally 5 seconds later, she got like the other half of it on the seat. I was like, all right, cool. It was great having her for the weekend. We did a lot, and I was happy to have her. We got in this really weird argument about Sing and Sing 2. Because like Sing 2 is on Netflix. It always pops up as like, here, watch this. We've watched it a million times. I really enjoy the movie. Like, I don't mind watching it a million times. I cry for whatever reason every time during the Clay Calloway finale. Every time. I squirt some tears. Niagara Falls. Every time. So Sing 2, very nice. I was like, well, we've watched Sing 2 a bunch of times. Do you want to watch Sing 1? And she was like, what? And I was like, well, Sing 2 is the sequel. It's the second one, Sing 2. There's a first one that came out before it called Sing, or Sing 1. And she was like, no, Sing 2. Sing 2, please. And I was like, but it's the same characters. Like, it's literally the same character, basically the same cast of characters in another movie. You don't want to see them do something different or see like what they were like before all this? She's like, nope, Sing 2. Regular Sing, please. Regular Sing. And I was like, well, it's not. I know in your head you're thinking regular, and regular to you is Sing 2, but you can't say regular Sing. Expect, like, that's not. I need you to know that I understand, but for future reference, like, don't call it regular Sing, because then people will put on Sing, the first one. And so we got into like multiple arguments about that, where I was like, I know you want to watch Sing 2. Sing 2 is not regular. Okay. None of this is regular. Sing is the first one. Sing 2 is the second one. If you want to watch Sing 2, say, I want to watch Sing 2. We haven't watched Sing. She's like, I want regular Sing. I'm like, all right. Okay. I mean, there's so many things that I could see her getting upset about, like really pissed about, but not a million years would it be Sing, how we call Sing 2 versus Sing 1, which is technically Sing. We ended up watching Sing, and for the first 15 minutes, it's like she started off red hot, like, I don't want to watch this. And then with every minute that passed, like, her decibel level got lower and lower until I think maybe half hour in, she accepted her fate. Like, okay, Sing 2 is not going to come on. We're going to watch Sing. And in all honesty, yes, Sing 2 is better. Like, it's just objectively better. But I did want to let her know, like, okay, maybe you would also like this movie because it's essentially the same people, characters, animals. But yeah, we'll do regular Sing from now I also started watching Strange Planet, which is from the creators of, I think it's from co-written by and co-created by Dan Harmon. I guess it's based on a series of books by a guy named Nathan W. Pyle, I think. And so Dan Harmon, if you don't know, he's the co-creator of Rick and Morty. I don't know if he was the co-creator of Solar Opposites. But so Dan Harmon co-created Rick and Morty with Justin Roiland. Justin Roiland, I know for sure, is involved in Solar Opposites on Hulu, and now you get Strange Planet on Apple TV. So far, I'm 2 episodes in. Yeah, 2 episodes in, and it's just it's so simply comedic. Like, it's so funny in simple terms that I get mad that I didn't think of it. It's like they essentially wrote out a pretty straightforward script. Like, all right, here's just things that happen. And then we're just going to take out a thesaurus or like it's basically using different words, funny words to describe normal stuff. Like the public bus is the group roller machine. It's like just stuff like that where it's just, and explaining simple truths in such a direct and straightforward manner, and it's hilarious. So I know it's getting pretty good reviews, so I highly recommend that. And then we finished out the weekend, my daughter and I, by going to the Peaches and Sunflower Festival at Shady Brook Farm. We got there, I guess, kind of late, a little 2:15, I think. And so it's $15 a head to get in. Yeah, I guess it was worth it. But and then you pay $20. Yeah, $20 for a metal bucket that you put sunflowers in, and a smallish bag that can fit inside the metal bucket that you can put all your peaches in, right? But there's no real direction about, okay, how do I get these peaches, said peaches and sunflowers? So I was like, yeah, sure. If that's the recommendation, I'll go for it. I've never picked peaches per se, but I have picked apples quite a bit in my day against my will. But I've never like picked sunflowers. That's going to be a trip. And so we get in. Brie goes on the air pillow, which she was very fearful of that because she, I don't even know if I ever talked about that on the pod, but she broke her leg when she was like not even 3, jumping on a trampoline at my sister's place with her bigger cousin. And so now she has like an incredible petrifying fear of trampolines or anything you jump on. And I get it, my man. I freaking get it. You don't tell me twice. So, but with a little cajoling, she got on the air pillow and had some fun. And then we there was like a playground area where there was like, I don't know if these were mothers or nanny caretaker situation. So I was like, I don't know. Like I said, it's been 3 years. It's just like, I'm getting like a provocative nanny vibe from you people, but you're all married with husbands, right? Okay, cool. You just don't, what's happening? What's going on? Like, it's odd to think that like I had my child late. No, I didn't. I mean, we had, me in particular, I was old. I was almost 38 when we had our daughter. So like to see in most of America where it's not like a city, metropolitan area, people get married and have kids fairly younger, right? On average. So like to see a woman in her mid to late 20s or early 30s, like chasing little rugrats around, it's like, oh. And you're not like, you're a cool mom. All right, cool. What am I saying? Yeah. But there's the Peaches and Sunflower Festival. So she plays on the playground for a little bit. We then go to the bouncy house. She didn't want to go down the giant slide. I feel like slides are another big fear of hers. I don't know why, because we never really, as far as I know, I've never had an accident on a slide. I know my sister had like some kind of crazy accident when she was 4 or 5 on a slide. Like we thought she was concussed. That was pretty rad / scary. It was like, Okay, that's when I first found out, okay, don't let her fall asleep. Got it. So went to the bouncy house. There was a mother there that turned to me and was like, boys, am I right? They're so rough. And I'm like, how do I say this? Like, I know I'm a man. I used to be a boy. That was a long time ago. I don't have all of a sudden I'm like, all I had to say was, yep, boys are rougher than girls. Is like literally all I had to agree to. And instead I went through this rabbit hole in my mind of like, well, I'm going to have to explain to her that I don't have a son. And I don't think I'll have a son. It's not in the cards. And then like, I have to follow that up with, well, it's not because I'm no longer married and I don't know if I'm going to meet someone. Like you just start going down this entire path of conversation that's not happening. It's not happening. Just fucking say, yeah, dude. Yeah, boys are rougher than girls. And so I did, but it took me it felt like 5 minutes to say, yes, you're correct. Even though I only have a daughter. So I've heard boys are rougher. Yeah. And then I had to like grill the high school kid that was working the bouncy house about like, hey, how am I going to get these peaches and sunflowers? Like where does that come into play? Because I don't see any peaches. I don't see any sunflowers. And so she was like, well, you have to catch the wagon. And the last wagon is at 4. And if you miss that, like you can't walk between the fields, which is like, I get it. I guess security concern. So, once my daughter came off the bouncy house, it was like, it's wagon time. So we go on the wagon after getting her water and to feel like, yeah. So we get on the wagon, it's packed. Wagon stops and we go to pick the peaches first. And it's just, this whole experience was just, it was mostly just women Instagramming. That's all it was. It was just one big Instagram photo opportunity, photo op for all these women looking to like really floss and flex on IG. That's all it was. Like I was like trying to actually look for peaches and pick out the best ones. And there's a woman like sticking your head between the branches. Like, okay, go take the picture. Like, you know, and to be honest, we picked a pretty healthy peck, I guess it's called, of peaches. Peck of peaches. Peter Piper pecked a pika pucka pucka. And I mean, Bree's pretty good. And I don't know if it was like the time we spent picking strawberries down in South Carolina, but I think it might have helped because she picked out some winners. And I think I did as well. Although a lot of them are not your typical like reddish orangey color. They're mostly like, they look like Granny Smith apples almost. And I brought them home and I washed them and I put a little vinegar in the little solution there to make sure like, okay, we're going to completely make sure these are good to go. And then pulled them out and they look dirtier. How's that possible? I don't know. They're all rock hard though. How long does it take for you guys to soften up? What's going on? So the peaches were good or fun. And then we went across the sunflower picking area, and that I talked to a woman, and I know this is not her fault, and I'm not. There's no one. It's not a blame type thing. It's just like what the hell. The low talking situation, low talkers, like my hearing fucking sucks, you know, tinnitus and whatnot. But like if you're a low talker, I get so frustrated. So she was a low talker, and I guess I was like, hey, how does this work? And she goes, so you want to do? You I was like, yeah, sure. I heard none of that. Okay. So and there's like a maze type situation. I wasn't sure if I can walk down the rows. They're pretty tightly packed. But again, it was all women like just with sticking their head through sunflowers. Like, look at me, Instagram, jealous. So, and one thing that I think they probably should have warned you about or us about on the website, in person, when you buy the tickets, whatever. The fucking bees, man. They're bees all over these sunflowers. All over. It's redonk. Like I'm supposed to, and lo and behold, like a cool 15 minutes before we're picking the sunflowers, maybe 20 minutes, when we're at the bouncy house, I can hear, because the teenager working the bouncy house has a radio on, and over the radio, all I can hear is like, yeah, she's allergic, and she's behind the chalk truck. The chalk truck, she's behind the chalk truck. Gold 5, Gold 5. Can you respond to Red 6, Red 6? Are you in the area? Blue 8, Blue 8. You know, he's just like using all these code names to get everyone to this person who I didn't put two and two together. I was like, oh, she's alert. Like she didn't know she's allergic to sunflowers. Or like she didn't know she was allergic to peaches. I don't know. It could happen. You don't know until it happens, right? So I was like, oh, she's allergic to something, like peaches or sunflowers, one of the two. And it's like, yeah, I just see all these workers, staff just running towards past me at the bouncy house. There's like a truck called the chalk truck where you can draw. It's got a big blackboard on the side of it and you can draw on it, although no one was drawing on it. And I guess this person was behind the chalk truck. And you just see like people, all these, I almost got ran over by a freaking golf cart. Like it's just all these employees and staffers and golf carts just like speeding to this one area. And I was like, holy fuck, what the hell's going on? Like, is this person going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall when his helmet comes off on Mars? That kind of situation. And it turns out, then I start seeing all these bees on the sunflowers and I put two and two together and I'm like, oh, fuck. This woman got stung by a bee. She's allergic to bees. That's what's going on. I saw them loading her into the ambulance when we're getting on the wagon. And I was like, oh boy. And my only assumption here is like, there's no way you can know that you're allergic to bees, approach those sunflowers, see the bees, and go through with it. Not a chance. So she probably had no idea, has never been stung by a bee, and didn't know she was allergic to bees. Because if she knew she's allergic to bees, what the fuck are you doing there? Get the hell out of there. So hopefully she's okay. I mean, I hope she's okay. I don't know. But yeah, that was like a serious pain in the ass to carry around those peaches and sunflowers. Though it was, yeah, I think I have carpal tunnel. Of course, I had to hit up the sports zone, as they call it, where it's literally like baseball throwing station, basketball shooting station, football throwing station. I was like, I just need to get through. Like, just let me throw one for each hole that there is, and we can go. Like, I cannot not participate in that. So we kind of rushed through the last 2 or 3 things. There was like an obstacle course that she went through for a while there, which was nice. But from the moment I got the sunflowers and put them in the bucket and filled them with water, I was like, all right, well, the bee time's over, right? Like the bees, they only go to sunflowers that are connected to the soil. Like they don't, once they're cut, the bees are like, ew, gross. Like, you know? And no, those bees still are having at it pretty hard. So I was like, the whole time I'm like fearing, I'm just trying, well, you can't fear because they smell fear, right? So I was like, all right, breathe in and out. But like, you know, there was we get in line for snacks and there's this like the quintessential, I mean, I can't say what I'm about to say about this kid, but it's just like, he's going to grow up to be a gambler. I'll just put it that way, like a degenerate gambler. And he's behind us in line at the snack shack or whatever. And he's like, oh, there's bees. And I'm like, and thinking to myself, was the sunflowers were a mistake? We know that because like wherever I take these, I'm basically just bringing bees to people wherever I go. Like, hey, want some bees? And so this kid was like, oh, bees. And so I'm trying to like not listen to the kid as he freaks out that there's bees everywhere. I can't believe it hasn't stung Brie yet. I thought for sure that was going to happen. That's like a minus 1,000 bet. And so we're walking over to find a place to sit so she can eat her Doritos. And there's this couple, and the couple's like, "Oh, hey, where'd you get those peaches and sunflowers?" Like they came off as either you are extremely naturally chill or you are high AF. I'm gonna go with high AF. And she was like, "Where'd you get those?" I was like, "Oh, well, there are fields back there. The only way you can get to them is if you get on the wagon. Problem is the last wagon was at 4, and it's now it's almost 5. So I'm really sorry." And she was like, "Can I buy one off you?" And I was like, "Oh, in my head, I'm trying to do like price points. Like, okay, I know I paid $20 for the bucket and the peaches, but it said it's $3 a stem. I picked 8 flowers. It's $24. Should I just charge her $3 a stem? No, that feels kind of." And eventually the guy stepped in and was like, "No. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" It's like, oh, thank God. I was like, I'm willing to sell them to you. They have no sentimental, like, she doesn't give a shit. My daughter doesn't give a shit. So, like, I'm cool with it. It's like, now I got to start doing math in my head. And that's when they were like, okay, well, before your head explodes, we're going to walk away. But it was overall a good time. We were there for about 3-ish hours. So, I think she had a good time. She's into games and animals. And it's like a lot of these places I've been taking her don't have games or animals or animals that you can pet. Like they have a goat pen or whatever, pen with the goats, but like you need 50 cents to put in the gumball machine that has the goat feed to feed them. And I was like, I don't have any change. I don't have any change. She's like, yeah, but I want to feed them. I was like, I don't have any change. She's like, Dad, I want to feed them. She's into like repeating herself as if I don't hear her the first 10,000 times. I hear you. I cannot make this happen. And then my time with her, to cap things off, we went to the pool a couple times, but the second time, by the way, pool doing much better. Very murky and cloudy last time, where I could not see my hand in front of my face. This time it's a crystal clear. So they must have figured it out. The lifeguard was different this time. The lifeguard, long blonde hair, firm jawline, bigger type person, muscular type person, tall, masculine features. My daughter looks at the lifeguard, points at the lifeguard, and asks me, "Is that a boy or a girl?" And loud enough for this friggin' dude to hear. I'm sorry, this person to hear. And in my head, I'm like, if this were like 10, 20, 15 years ago, I would just be like, it's a boy. I'm 100% sure that's a boy. But it's like, Pride Month was a couple months ago. Like Bud Light is into trans people now. It's just like, what is the response I'm supposed to give here? And I know, like, I'm a simp, a basic simp cuck. I get it. It jarred my brain. My brain froze glitched. I was like, well, you shouldn't. I think my response I was gonna go with was, you shouldn't assume gender. But I was like, this is clearly a dude. But I was like, you can't assume. Like I was gonna say you can't assume gender. I was like, that sounds so stupid. And I just ended up going with, sometimes boys have long hair and girls have short hair. Boom, mic drop. And I don't know if that dude appreciated it, but I was like, guy, I'm in a pretty tough spot here. Because odds are you are a guy just being a guy. But what is the 1% chance that you are in fact identify as a woman? You're a she, her, she, sure, he, sure, she, her. And I have thoroughly offended and pissed you off because I assumed you're a guy. What are the odds? Because you're on the younger side. You're Gen Z, and Gen Z is all about it. So, okay, boomer. That's life. I've watched so much TV. Too much TV? Probably too much TV. I had a video chat with a prospective date. And this woman does not have a TV in her bedroom, which is literally what every advice column says to do. Don't have a TV in your bedroom. Read a book before you go to bed. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at TV. I'm currently looking at 4 screens and I'm going to bed pretty soon. So, I just watch way too much TV. And this woman just does not watch any TV. And I was like, oh boy, I need to change my life drastically. But yeah, I watched a lot of TV. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows I want to talk about. Yikes. The first of which is Arnold. This was the 3-part limited docuseries on Netflix. First part is called Athlete. It talks about his rise through the bodybuilding ranks through Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia. And then part 2 is Actor, how he transitioned from being this world-class bodybuilder to becoming the actor that we all know and loved in the 80s and 90s. And then his transition in the early 2000s to being governor of California. I know some people are probably not happy about hearing this and whatever. I like Arnold a lot. And I know he's fucked up a lot. But I admire him and everything he does. The first part talks about how, his upbringing in Austria, this is post World War II. I remember seeing a clip of him talking about how the ravaging aftermath of World War II, after 1945, the lasting effects, aftershocks of World War II in that area, specifically Austria, and how a lot of fathers were alcoholics, and his father was an alcoholic, and he had a brother. But his father's, I think the big advice or takeaway from his father that he mentioned in the docuseries was be useful, which I thought was, it makes sense. Like, how am I useful? What is my purpose? I often ask that almost every week. Like, what is my purpose? Is what I'm doing useful? Like, is it benefiting anyone? Is it really helping anyone? I don't want to say that I'm like anti-person. I don't consider myself to be asocial, but I don't know that I have a huge reservoir of empathy. I've talked about it multiple times where something could be happening and there's a crowd gathering and I'm like, I'm walking right by that shit. Like, I just have no interest in having that experience with all these strangers, and I avoid conflict. And it's like, I'd rather just be alone. It's like, yay. By the way, I don't want to die alone. I know that my grandmother said it to my uncle, like, I don't want to die alone. And it's like, yeah, Nan, I hear you. I don't want to die alone either. But like, do I want to like attach and hook myself to someone just so I don't have to die alone? Or can I just like make a deal with someone and be like, hey, here's the deal. You're on the phone tree, and as soon as shit starts to go south for me, you come in and then you just hang out with me, and we'll talk about the cool shit. Luckily I have a daughter, so I think she'll be game for that, because girls are nice, women are nice, and they care for others more so than men. And so I think I'm lucky in that respect. Hopefully she doesn't completely hate me by the time I turn for the worst. But yeah, be useful. That kind of struck a chord with me. It was just like, yeah, every day, how am I contributing to, my legacy, which is very narcissistic, because I'm not building a very memorable legacy right now, but this is part of it. Like, why do you do the podcast? No one listens. Okay, just trying to leave a legacy, a little something to hold on to. So there's that. But it's also like, if someone can listen to this or hear this and find it helpful in any way, whether it's like lightening the mood, having a chuck, having a fall, maybe shed a tear out of sheer pity, the little things, then I guess I'm doing my job, right? But he is the most useful person. Like this, most people would be happy with just one of these things: becoming a governor, becoming a blockbuster movie actor, becoming a world-class athlete. One of those three things, not to look like Michael Fassbender in Inglourious Bastards, if you're watching the video, but like one of these three things, I think a lot of people would be very happy with. And this motherfucker did all three. He's incredible. And I don't think he can technically run for president. Oh, way to go, U.S. citizen, you dunce. But if they ever ratify that shit, my God, I would vote for him in a heartbeat. The fact that he was married to a Democrat, ran as a Republican, and kind of, from what I understand, I didn't follow that closely when it was happening, but from this documentary, which I know is biased, reached across the aisle. I know he came in pretty hard and fast and strong and was like, I'm going to use sheer force and will to get my way. And it didn't work. And then he kind of softened, ended up hiring a lesbian to be his Secretary of State or Secretary of Staff, basically his right-hand woman, and was managed to accomplish a lot from what I could tell. Like, obviously his approval ratings, I think, were pretty in the shitter when he first started, but like, I think he even got praised by Obama at certain points. I think it was during the wildfires, maybe his response to that, but like a lot of his, stances on things. So, yeah, if he ran for president, I would friggin' in a heartbeat vote for him. So part one talks about his rise through bodybuilding, where he basically won the Mr. Universe amateur competition in 1967 at the age of 20, and then won 3 straight Mr. Universes from 1968 to 1970. So he's like, 23? Moves on to Mr. Olympia, and he wins a bunch of Mr. Olympias in the early 70s. Up to 1980, they talked about, what was it, Hercules in New York, how much of a bomb that was, and how, people didn't take him seriously as an actor until Conan the Barbarian. That was kind of his breakout role. And then that's what ended up leading to Terminator, which it's so funny that they were going to cast O.J. Simpson as the Terminator. Oh, Jesus Christ. And eventually passed on him because they didn't think he was a killing machine. So they spent some time on Conan the Barbarian. They spent some time on Terminator. Kind of glossed over Commando and Predator and Running Man and Twins. Oh, they did spend some time on Twins. They, basically introduced Danny DeVito and talked about that relationship. Glossed over Total Recall. Glossed over Kindergarten Cop. Maybe kind of mentioned it as like, I guess Twins was his first foray into comedy. It was to show like his versatility, like I can do comedy. And then Kindergarten Cop would have been his second biggest comedy. So he has T2 in 91, which is like huge. And then True Lies 94 is really his, what many consider to be his last big successful movie. Last Action Hero, I would put, it should have been better, more highly regarded. I liked Last Action Hero, I think, when I saw it in the theater. And then, I appreciated it more as I got older. I'll say that. In the theater, I was like, okay. Yeah, I think I like this. But it wasn't like your typical Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And then as I get older, I was like, all right, yeah, I get this more. But I would say since True Lies, it's tough. I don't know. Eraser, 6 Days or the Sixth Day. He just had a bunch of movies where it's like didn't necessarily land. Batman and Robin, as Mr. Freeze. So then he was like, all right, kind of losing interest in Hollywood. Hollywood is losing interest in me. What's the next thing? I want to be useful. He thought, okay, I'm no longer useful in the weightlifting world. I'm going to move to acting. I'm no longer useful in the acting world. I'm going to move to politics. And so that's when he decided to run for governor, when Gray Davis had the recall. There was a recall on Gray Davis. So there's allegations of groping and forceful and in office that I thought it's good that he at least acknowledged it in the series. I don't think he went into much detail, and I guess that's most PR people would say that's for the best. Like, you don't want to get into the too nitty gritty. It's just like, just acknowledge it happened, apologize for it, and try to move on. And then he also ended up talking about what happened with, him cheating on Maria Shriver and leading to the separation and the divorce and whatnot, and how he he ended up, the love child he had with the maid is now like in his 20 or something like that. Is like in his 20s, early 20s. And like you can kind of see in the face, like, okay, that's, I could see the Arnold there. But he's getting into bodybuilding now, which is interesting. But he just seems like he lives like, man, that's a good life. He led a good life. Not to say it's over, but like you see the house he's in now, and he's got like these big ass dogs that love him, and he's got all these other pets like donkeys and pigs and chicken. I don't know. He's got a whole zoo, wildlife reservation that he lives on, and he loves those animals, and those animals love him. And you know, the maid, dude, interesting. That's I was like, oh, okay. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then while I was down in South Carolina, I got to watch Quarterback on Netflix. I really loved this series, but I've heard from a few people that this, like, it just didn't land for them. And I could see why, because I also watched Untold, the Johnny Manziel documentary movie on Netflix, and that moves with tremendous pace. Very quick, very high energy, no slow, dull spots. It's just got a like incredible pace and quickness to it. Whereas Quarterback, it's different too. Quarterback's 8 episodes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So if you're not familiar, it focuses on 3 quarterbacks during the 2022 NFL season. The first quarterback of which is Patrick Mahomes, league MVP, Super Bowl champion. Next one is Kirk Cousins, Minnesota Vikings quarterback, much maligned. And then you have, I don't want to say disgraced, Marcus Mariota, like high draft pick for the Titans, didn't pan out, lost his job to Tannehill, went to Vegas for a year or two, and is now, as of the beginning of the 2022 season, named the starter for the Falcons. And he looks good in that friggin' uniform, dude. I liked the number 1, like everything. I mean, I liked a lot of the Falcons uniforms, and to see Marcus Mariota in a Falcons uniform was cool. I was kind of hoping the Giants would sign him before we got Tyrod Taylor. I thought that would be a nice little backup just in case, because Jones had his injury issues, so it's like it would have been cool to have Marcus. Daniel Jones got hurt. Oh, we just turned to Marcus Mariota. Cool. But I ended up watching this down in South Carolina with most of the episodes with my sister, and I didn't think she'd be interested, but she did watch a couple other football documentaries on Netflix. So I was like, all right, like she doesn't watch games on Sunday, she doesn't know a lot of the players, but like this appealed to the dude, the former football player in me, but it also had it showed the home life of a lot of the quarterbacks, their wives, their children, how they handle that, how that, interviews with the wives, the girlfriends, and how they're able to balance both professional life and home life. So I think she really appreciated that aspect of it. And I did as well, to be honest, because it's like, in each example, it's not, I think previous episode, the episode before, we're talking about trophy wives. And you think like, okay, a lot of rich NFL quarterbacks, like if there's a position that often has like the wag, quote unquote, or the trophy wife, the hot woman that is just like arm candy, it's the quarterback, right? That's just like the stereotypical old fashioned way to think. But like, to see the dynamic in play, like, yes, there is a very, it's not just this superficial for show type thing. There's like in the Mahomes case, Patrick and his wife have been dating since high school, and like Patrick thought he was in the friend zone for 2 years, and it's like so fucking nuts to think about, like high school sweethearts. And Kirk and his wife met in college, and they are religious. holy crap, are they religious? Like, you know, when the wife is talking about when things get rough or stressful, she just, you know, I just put on my prayer music or like gospel music or something like that. And it's just like, okay. And like the songs that Kirk sings to. So he reads like a Sports Illustrated for Kids book to his son, which that son probably too old to have a nookie, a pacifier, probably too old. That kid looked like he was 6 or 7 and still sucking on that nip, that fake rubber nip. Interesting. But he reads the Sports Illustrated for Kids book, and I was like, I need to slip that into the rotation with Brie. Just like on the off chance that maybe she kind of digs it and it like subconsciously like leaks into her brain, and then, you know, but then he tucks them in at night and sings like this it's like religious song, and I'm just like, how do you hate Kirk Cousins? I just don't like hate Kirk Cousins. You can't hate Kirk Cousins. You might not be very fond of a lot of what he's got going on, but like to hear his story and to see what he went through, like each one of these 3 quarterbacks went through hell in one way or another. I mean, Mahomes, not so much until he gets to the postseason where he severely sprains his ankle in that opening playoff game. I think it was the divisional game against the Jags. To see him work through that and work back and win the Super Bowl is like, I mean, it's freaking incredible, dude. I mean, why anyone would doubt Patrick Mahomes from now on out is like, you're a fool. Kirk Cousins, it was like he bruised his ribs in that game against the Commanders, which I didn't know or remember. Where like he gets hit and the big dude, what was it? I want to say Darren Payne. No, one of the vicious, brutal monsters that's on that defensive line for the Commanders lands on him, ends up bruising his ribs, and literally every clip that they show of him in game playing is just him like It's just like, oh boy. The things that he had to deal with during that season and still pull off all these come from behind wins. And, you know, I had another Eagles fan comment on my video from fucking January after the Giants lost the Eagles in the divisional round. Like literally that video, it's just Eagles fans commenting on my video. Like not one goddamn Giants fan is commenting like anything or even defending me. It's just like, nope. Hey, Philly, have at it. This guy's a jackass. So, you know, I know that they think that Minnesota were frauds, but like largest comeback victory in NFL regular season history or NFL history, regular season and postseason combined against the Colts. Huge win against the Patriots, huge win against the Bills in Buffalo. I mean, like fraudulent. I don't know about frauds. And knowing that Kirk had that rib thing going on, I mean, he had in addition to the probably world-renowned training room that he has, he also hires like a group of massage therapists, body sculptor type people to come in to his house every Friday night and just like rub him down. It's like, man, what do I have to earn for that to happen? Because I would love that to happen possibly once a day. Like, what's the going rate on that? How much do I have to earn for that to happen? Because I would love that. Because just the idea of like, just you do whatever you need to do to my body. I'm just gonna lay here and just you do me. And then Mariota was just tough because it was like they get off to kind of a rough start. They kind of battle back. They build some buzz, and then he has that throw, dude. It was like from the time that throw happened. As soon as it happened, it was like, oh, well, that's, I guess, what I completely forgot that throw happened. I don't know if it was against the Saints where he's kind of tumbling to the ground and he's about to hit the ground and he kind of he spins last minute and just literally throws the ball. Like doesn't know where he's throwing it, not looking where he's throwing it, and just fucking chucks it in the air. And I was like, oh yeah, that decision makes sense now. It's still kind of ambiguous what ended up happening. Like, the story was he just disappeared and went absent and like failed to show up to practice, failed to show up to the facility. And the coach was like, we have no idea where he is. And it was like, well, he was having a kid, but a lot of guys have kids in season. Like I think even, who was it? Was it Kirk Cousins that also had no, it was Mahomes that was having a kid right around Christmas. Same time as Mariota. But he's at practice and he's playing, but he's also the starter. And it's like, from Mariota's standpoint, it kind of makes sense. It's like, well, you guys, obviously you've told me that you want to move on from me. I'm not the starter anymore. So I'm just going to step aside. I don't want to be a distraction. And in doing so, he became a bigger distraction because it's like, well, you're abandoning your team. I don't know. And then of course he signs with the friggin' Eagles. Awesome. So I can only imagine like Hurts going down like in a game against the Giants or the week before. And we're like, oh, we get to, Hurts isn't playing. We got a shot. And it's like, no. Los Gigantes El Stinko versus backup quarterbacks for whatever reason. Think like, oh, Vic went down and now we have to face Vince Young, who's a wash, has been. He's washed. And then he leads him to victory. Cool. We still won the Super Bowl that year. So yeah, quarterback, highly recommend. I really liked it, mostly because it got into I guess if you're not a former football player or like a hardcore football fan, you're just casual, you wouldn't be interested in it. But like they dive into a lot of the nitty gritty of being a quarterback, like play calling, remembering the plays. I mean, literally on one play in the red zone, Kirk Cousins says, like the whole string of the play and then gets to the why, which is the most important part of the play, and says why whatever. And yet the tight end knew exactly what he was talking about. Like why whatever is not a play. He just said why whatever because he forgot what the route is called. And the tight end still ran it and they scored a touchdown. So no, I as a former quarterback, I fucking loved it. How could you not? Speaking of quarterbacks, I guess really quick, Hard Knocks episode 1, I got to watch it. I haven't watched a full season of Hard Knocks in I don't know how long, maybe since the Cowboys one, way back when. So I've kind of been out on Hard Knocks. It just feels the same thing every year. It's like they have a formula and they really stick to it year to year. And so this one felt different. Like last year with the Lions, it's like cool because Dan Campbell, I think first year head coach or second year head coach, and they feel like they're turning things around. Okay, I get it. And so Dan Campbell was really the main attraction-ish. This is like, it's friggin' Aaron Rodgers, And I think they kind of are breaking from formula a little bit. And like the first episode it was like, they understand the job, the task at hand. It's like, we need to make sure that we feature Aaron Rodgers every 4 seconds. Like we need a shot of him. Even if he's not saying anything, we need his reaction to everything that's going on. And it held my attention. It did the job. So kudos to them. Will it get too old too quick? I don't know. Yeah, I liked it. And I probably will watch the rest of the series. I think it's entertaining enough, especially if there's some twists and turns. But apparently Rodgers loves New York. And is better than expected as far as he's concerned. So that opening speech though by Robert Saleh, holy shit, dude! If you haven't watched it yet, it opens with Saleh talking to the entire team in an auditorium, and he says, "Did you know that the only bird?" I think the bird that will attack an eagle is a crow. And it will do so by hopping on the eagle's neck and pecking at the neck. So hopping on the eagle's back and pecking at the neck. And he says that the eagle could have just torn it to pieces. Probably. It's bigger. It's more aggressive, more physical. It'll win that fight. But instead of doing that, it just flies higher and higher and higher and flies higher and higher until the crow can't breathe or take it anymore and falls off. And he's like, yeah, let's be that eagle. Just ignore the knocks on us, people attacking us, and just fly higher and higher, and they'll eventually fall off. And it's like, I'm not a big fan of the Jets, but may I play for you? I will suit up. So Hard Knocks off to a hot start. And then I from one quarterback to another. Untold Johnny Manziel on Netflix. I need to watch more of the Untold series. I think I watched Malice at the Palace, but I think that was the 30 for 30. I don't know if I've watched the Untold one. So I was like, pretty much all of America was enamored, infatuated with Johnny Manziel when he was at Texas A&M. I was like, thank God Almighty. Thank the Lord above Allah. Thank you for giving us a quarterback who doesn't fit this boring ass vanilla mold, who just always says the pat answer during interviews, who is like by the book, Bible thumping, I guess Tim Tebow, right? It was just like, praise God and quoting, I just like the fact that this dude was a party animal, but was also good at football, because I like to party and I like football. So I thought, like, okay, it's just nice to see that us party animals are still, we still got some juice in the game, it's you can see why you don't have more of Johnny's ilk making it in professional football. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, all that partying will catch up to you, and it will damage your reputation, and it will detract from your play and like all that stuff. But it was interesting hearing like Cliff Kingsbury talk about Johnny football and be like, yeah, I didn't care what he did necessarily, as long as he still played good. It's like, yeah, all right, you sound like a college football coach. That makes sense. We're going to look past all this bullshit that, getting arrested and getting pulled out of a frat party because you're too drunk and fighting and, blah, blah, blah. It's like, as long as you can suit up on Saturdays and dominate, all Gucci, my man. But so they basically follow him from growing up in Kerrville, Texas, attending Ty-V High School, where they had practice before school and after school. Holy shit. And he kind of used that as a crutch. He was like, he blamed that for turning him off from football, where it's like, it was so regimented and strict and disciplined that he kind of went the opposite way, which tends to happen with some people. You go to a very Catholic high school, or, some kind of hoity-toity prep school, and then you have all these guardrails and rules and, whatever restrictions. And then as soon as those go away, it's like party time. Like, I'm going to go complete opposite. So I get that. But then I think about like my football program. Like, if they were like, yeah, show up in the morning, early morning, we're going to do all this, and then show up in the afternoon. It's like, I would have done it probably. Maybe I would have been a better player. But the fact that he scored 75 touchdowns in one high school football season is outrageous, dude. I cannot believe that. That is toit. And what's weird about Johnny football is like, he's not a big guy. 5'10", 5'11". He even admits it. I'm like 5'10", maybe 5'11". And I guess he's fast. He has to be fast, but it doesn't seem like it. Does that make sense? Like, I watch him. These are simple plays where it just doesn't look like he's faster than anyone else, but he is faster than everyone else. And he even said it like, he's not much of a playbook guy. He's just basically backyard football. Like, I'm going to run away from the guys tackling me, and I'm either going to run with it or I'm going to find someone that's open somewhere, which I love that. He wanted to go to the University of Texas. He had all kinds of Longhorn gear. Obviously does not go there. He ends up at A&M. Mac Brown, by the way, passed on a lot of dudes. Mac Brown. A lot of dudes that turned out to be really good, at least in college. But he completely revitalized the program, put him on a map, And it kind of ties into the NIL whole situation where it's like, well, if the NIL existed, he would be not a billionaire, but he would be way richer than he is right now. They ended up, from all the new booster money that they were getting and all the money being pumped to the program, not to Johnny Manziel, they were able to like build a new stadium. All the hotels are booked, millions of jerseys sold, which blew my mind. I didn't realize that. And he doesn't see a dime of it. That kind of sucks. I completely forgot that he came out after his sophomore year in college, wins the Heisman freshman year. And, the fact that he, as brash and as bold and as confident as he appears, the fact that after he beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, seeing that crowd, like the wild crowd outside, scared him. And like his mom even acknowledging, I've never seen him that scared. Like, that's huge. That's huge. So to win the Heisman freshman year, when it's like almost no one wins the Heisman freshman year, but you looked at wins about like who he went up against: Manti Te'o, fake girlfriend, and Colin Klein from Kansas State. I don't remember Colin Klein one iota. I had to Wikipedia him, and I'm like, oh, well, big dude, can run and can also throw. And the first to do this and the first to do that in Kansas State history. And it's like, well, it's Kansas State football. It's not like they have a very rich history. But okay, what's Colin Klein up to? Okay, he's I think he's now the offensive coordinator or head coach at Kansas State or something like that. So good for him. It's just like, I do not remember Colin Klein at all. That's on me. So to go from for him and his friend Uncle Nate, why they never revealed why they call this kid Uncle Nate. I mean, it's literally his best friend who's the same age, same grade, like childhood friends. Why is he called Uncle Nate? Like, I know I called myself Uncle Neal when I was 24-year-old playing on a team, summer baseball league team, where it was mostly 18-year-olds. And I was like, hey, you can call me Uncle Neal. I'm 6 years older. Why Uncle Neal? So no revelation as to why they call him Uncle Nate. But of course, they're going to start charging for autographs, when they're at the Super Bowl or the Orange Bowl or the national championship in Miami. So it was Alabama, Notre Dame. He gets approached by a bunch of guys in Miami, and they start making these deals to sign autographs for merch, and they just make a ton of money. And so he has all these pictures of him on social media with these fat stacks of cash. And so that raises the ire of the NCAA, and they start to investigate. And that's when Uncle Nate comes up with the brilliant idea of saying his family is from oil money. And so that's why he has so much money. And it's like, good on you, Uncle Nate. But then so after sophomore year, when he goes to the trial and the hearings and whatnot, he ends up parting ways with Uncle Nate. And that was legitimately sad. It was like, you can see it's still, I mean, that happened 10 years ago. You can see it still affects Uncle Nate. That's tough. And you kind of hoped, like, from that moment on, I kind of hoped that they would have like a reunion of sorts, like they would end it on a happy note. And it's like, well, after all this time, I realized like we're both responsible and like whatever, and they kind of get back together. Nope. Spoiler alert, doesn't happen. So, but you can see he comes off the rails pretty much going into the 2014 NFL draft. He like cleaned up his act. So 2012, they're a ranked team. I think they lose 1 or 2 games. They win their bowl game, I think. 2013, they go 8-4. So it's definitely a huge step back. They should have won more games. And Manziel says it was on him. That's why they didn't win more games, because of him. So taking accountability, I guess. And then he gets hooked up with a sports agent. The sports agent, by the way, entertaining, but it's like, if I had to deal with you every day on a daily basis, I would drink and do drugs. Like, holy shit, dude. Calm down. And I assume that's all agents are, just like, oh my God, just so aggro. But I guess they have to be to get the best deal for their clients. But you would think that like teams and executives would wise up to it. Like, these agents are blowing smoke up your ass. 24/7. I can't imagine dealing with it, but the agent starts talking about all the things that started to go wrong. Like, okay, you just need to get sober, don't drink, train, with these people, and you're going to go in the combine, you're going to blow them away. And then if you can be a top 5 pick, you can get X amount of dollars, which means I get X amount of dollars. And, the higher you're picked, the more money you make, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people didn't happen to go in the first round. And then he starts impressing people. And then he gets too fucked up to attend the combine in Indianapolis. He comes late. He claims he overslept. Ends up doing well in the scouting combine. Gets more attraction. His stock goes up. And then pro day comes and he gets fucked up with a bunch of wide receivers that he was supposed to throw to the next day. They don't show up. So his lawyer and his agent are running routes at his pro day. The Browns are in attendance. And somehow they watch that, don't put 2 and 2 together, and still draft this dude. And that's why they're the Browns. On draft day, he slips. The Jags pass on him. They end up picking Blake Bortles. The Cowboys pass on him. They end up drafting Zach Martin. And then he falls to the Browns. He goes to Cleveland. He's not happy. Shocker. Not being happy in Cleveland. And then he ends up drinking and drugging. And like he purposely self-sabotages to get out of that situation. Ends up losing. I think he went down from 215 to 175. It was like remarkable. It almost looks CGI'd. It was like, whoa, dude. They put Johnny Manziel's body on like Johnny Manziel's face and head on McLovin's body, or DJ Qualls from Road Trip. And so he ended up going to rehab and I guess really spiraled. He said he was going to take his own life. He's going to party as hard as he could, blow all his money and then take his own life. And fortunately he did not, because that would be really, really tragic. So good that he's still around. They didn't, I think part of my take mentioned this, but like they didn't talk about what there was no epilogue. Like, okay, well, what's he doing now? It was just like, he's in Scottsdale at this like amazing house and hanging out and like kind of still partying with friends. It's not like hardcore partying. Like he's still lighting a joint or cigar. He's still drinking. But he's made amends with he's repaired the relationship with his father and his family, which is great. So yeah, it was entertaining, but it feels like that it's that over. Like that feels like a part 1, I mean, the dude is like turned 30 in December. So he's going to turn, 31. It's still pretty young, and it doesn't necessarily feel like he's out of the woods just yet. Like they talked about his relationship with what's her name, Carly Crowley. I guess that was the woman that he got into fights with, and the cops had to be called, and then he got a restraining order against him. And then I just did a quick search. Like he was married to Brianna Tiesi, a model, for like 3 or 4 years, and I guess they broke up. But part of my take guys say that he has opened a bar in Scottsdale, or that he's opened a bar in College Station. I think if you open the bar in College Station, it would probably do better because they were obsessed with him. So yeah, that was Untold, the Johnny Manziel story. I don't know that we need to really talk too much about Twisted Metal, Hijack, River Wild, Don't Worry, Darling. So maybe we'll get to that next week because it's a lot. I have thoughts. So we're going to skip ahead to the Mets and the Giants. All right, Mets, really quick. The July numbers, we went over them. We went over the June numbers last time, and they were not pretty, right? July numbers, and I know we're 2 weeks past then July, but I think it's important to note that we were 14-9 in July. I know it probably doesn't feel like it, but that's a 609 winning percentage. And if we continue to get that winning percentage over the course of the season, the remainder of the season, I think we get a playoff spot. So it is interesting that we did sell at the trade deadline, although hardly any logical, rational Mets fan will tell you it was the right move to make. Like, it's just, even with that 14-9 record in July, we started 6-0, and then we went 8-9. And I think it was losing to the White Sox, even though we took the series, like losing one game to them when we're clearly have the better record than them, probably should have been a sweep, probably deterred management and the front office from going in and buying. Losing to the Nationals, that's another team that you should probably sweep. Not capitalizing against the Yankees or Red Sox, like taking another game from them, we had games in our grasp. And not to say that we're necessarily that much better than the Yankees or Red Sox, but the fact that we had them and they were in the Yankees were in a bad spot, and we probably should have beat them. Red Sox, we let one slip away. Padres as well. Like that's another one where Padres have been struggling big time, and we didn't take advantage of it. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, we suck on the road. We're 24-38. Our record is less than 400 on the road. So it's like that's been a big contributor to things. We ended up, and people are saying like, look at how bad we were after the trade deadline. It's like, well, there were also teams that sucked after the trade deadline that were buyers. And how much more pissed would you be if we bought at the deadline and we were 0-6 or 1-5? So ultimately, it's still the right move in my mind. But it is such a, like I said before, it's a fine line between like, when do you push the gas and when do you pump the brakes? I don't know. Cause if you beat the White Sox, you beat the Nationals, you take a game from the Yankees, you take another game from the Red Sox, that's 4 more wins. We're now at 18-5 in July. Like it really came down to, it feels like 3 or 4 games, 2 or 3 games. That was the difference between them saying yeah and no. We released Luke Voit. This was like a couple weeks ago, but I felt like that was pretty dumb. Like we sign him. He's absolutely crushing the ball in the minor leagues. We don't have a legitimate DH. Why not just bring him up and give him a shot and give him like a week, 2 weeks? Give him the rest of the season. You have gotten 0 production out of your DH position in the lineup. Just let Luke Voit have at it. My thought there is it had to come down to a business financial thing where it's like, maybe if we were in the running, we would bring him up. But the fact that we don't think we have a shot at the playoffs, it's not worth bringing him up. And so we end up releasing him. But I don't know. I still think you bring him up regardless. Let's see some dingers, bro. Yeah. So like, there are a lot of no names in the lineup after the wholesale fire sale. Danny Mendick, Jonathan Arauz, Rafael Ortega, DJ Stewart. It's a lot of dudes that we're not used to seeing. On the positive side of things, Tim LaCastro coming back, Sam Coonrod coming back. It looks like Drew Smith still stinks, but it looks like the guy they got from the Dodgers, Phil Bickford, looks like he's pretty cool. He's already picked up two saves as a Met, I think. The August numbers, not so great. We were 0-6. It was the complete opposite from the start of July. We're 0-6 to start. We got swept by the Royals, who have legitimately 70-plus losses, less than 40 wins on the year, in Kansas City. And then we get swept by the first place Orioles in Baltimore. And it's like, oh, so we're really we're not even going to try. Like we're done. People are throwing around tank mode, and I get it. It's, all right, whatever, tank mode. But I legitimately think the clubhouse and the team and a lot of the players to a T were shocked and stunned and did not see this coming and are like, are in denial about the reality of the situation, which is front office and management thinks we're not going to make the playoffs. And so I think it really like threw everyone for a loop, and it was just like they weren't able to recalibrate and get their heads back in the game until the Chicago series when they took 2 or 3 from the Cubs. One of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball, by the way. They were 10-5 over the last 15 days days as of August 10th, right? And that includes, I guess that includes the series against the Mets. So they had lost 3 games in the last, 12. I like, that was somewhat impressive. And as a Cubs fan, you must be so pissed because it's like, all right, we're going to lose these schmoes. And then we went up against the Braves and we got shut out pretty handedly in the first game. Then we had the doubleheader, game 1 of the doubleheader. We just refused to dress anyone of importance and lost by 2 touchdowns and a field goal. Touchdown, extra point touchdown, 2-point conversion and a field goal. 21-3. We were outscored 34-3 in the first 3 games of the series. It was the worst run differential over a 3-game stretch in franchise history. No big deal. But then we turn around, we win the series finale on Sunday Night Baseball. A slot, a block that we never win in. So interesting. And it's behind Kodai Senga. Thank you very much. Monday, we beat the Pirates 7-2 at home, and it's like, what is going on here? We're building something special. And then, of course, tonight, Tuesday, we're facing a pitcher named Bailey Falter and can only scratch together a run against Bailey Falter. And then it completely unravels in like the 7th or the 8th, where we give up 6 runs, and then kind of scratch back, lost 7-4. But it is interesting the approach that we're taking now, like whether it's Carrasco or Peterson. It's like, I think Carrasco threw 88 pitches through 3 innings, 3 and a third, 3 2/3, and then Peterson tonight 90 some odd pitches in 3 2/3. It's like these fucking pitchers are struggling, like barely getting out of innings, able to work themselves out of jams, but you're giving us literally less than 4 innings. And so that's going to stress the bullpen. So right now it really looks like all you have in terms of legitimate opportunities, chances to win are Senga and Quintana. And Quintana's not even going that deep in most appearances. So yeah, I wouldn't, I'm not counting us completely out. I know that there was a commenter, Mario something or other, that was like, dude, Mets season, blah, blah, blah. Dude, the Mets season was over a month ago. I was like, well, a month ago would be July 15th. That was a full 2 weeks before the deadline. I don't know that we were necessarily thinking that it was over a month ago, but thanks. Please take care of your brother Luigi, and I hope you beat Bowser. And good luck with Princess Peach, my man. Since the trade deadline, this was as of August 9th. I mean, like what I was talking about, Arizona in the thick of it, in the playoff hunt. Buyers, we dealt Tommy Pham to them. They were 0-7 through 8-9 through August 9th. The Angels, dude, in an effort to, I guess, attempt to keep Shohei Ohtani, were buyers. They were 1-7 the first 8 games after the deadline. The Padres 3-4. Milwaukee's like 4-4. So it's like, you'd be fucking so furious if we went out and bought and ended up having a 500 to losing record, because you probably would have to sacrifice more of our farm system. And we did the opposite. And people keep saying replenish the farm system. It's like, all right, we got 7 guys and maybe they're all top 20, top 30 prospects. I don't know if it's replenish, but it's certainly we're heading in the right direction. So where did we go wrong? This season, for me, it comes down to 3 series. And, maybe I shouldn't count the last series because that's after the trade deadline, but it's just simply not winning against teams with worse records, losing records. Some may say bad teams. 2-4 against the Rockies, who are 46-73. Can't have it. 0-3 got swept by the Tigers in Detroit, who are 53-65, which they have basically the same record as us, but at the same, they had a much worse record than us when we played them. And then the Royals getting swept by the Royals, who were 39-81. It's crazy to think that over 162 game season, as of right now, it really came down to 5 to 10 games. But that's such a small, when you think about it, such a small sample size of a 162 game season, but it's really 5 to 10 that really altered the path and made a lot of people think, no, it's not in the cards. But it's funny, like timing, I have poor timing. A lot of things in life come down to timing, and the timing was just off. Pete Alonso has blown up, on fire. Francisco Lindor heating up. Jeff McNeil heating up. Lindor, since the start of July, is hitting .303, 6 doubles, 2 triples, 6 homers, 15 RBIs, and 24 runs scored. He finally reached the 2020 mark, which is 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. And he becomes the first Mets player with at least 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases since Carlos Beltran in 2008. Say what you will, but this guy should have been an all-star this year. He should have been an all-star last year. Jeff McNeil in the month of August, batting .315, the .811 OPS. He's been under 700 for pretty much the entire season. With a double, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, and 9 runs. Pete Alonso has the most seasons of 35 or more home runs as a Met. 4 times. Mike Piazza, Daryl Strawberry, Hojo, and Dave Kingman, all 3 seasons each. Why you would want to trade this guy, I have no idea. There's no way he's going to ask for too much money. He loves the Mets. He loves playing. It's his favorite team. He loves playing for them. If we're going to, I saw this tweet somewhere. If we're going to pay 2 over the hill aces $40+ million a season, we can afford Pete Alonso, who has at least another 5 good seasons in him, I think. Most home runs by a Mets rookie in a season. Obviously, there's Pete Polar Bear at 53 in 2019, but the next Mets player is Daryl Strawberry with 26 in 1983, and right below that, 5 away, although he might have closed it since then, Francisco Alvarez with 21 this year. So really hoping he is considered for Rookie of the Year. That'd be sweet. Him and Kodai Senga both battling for that title. And then, so the list continues with Ike Davis, 19 home runs in 2010, and Ron Svoboda with 19 and 65. It's like, which one of these does not belong? Ike Davis, oh my God. I'll say this, as fucked as the season is, the second half of September could be fun. We exclusively play the Marlins and the Phillies from September 18th, I think, until the end of the month. 13 straight games of Marlins and Phillies. And the Marlins and Phillies are currently like in the thick of the playoff hunt, like leading the wild card, second wild card spot. So the fact that we could have a few call-ups that I'll get into in a little bit that could come up and play spoiler is just, I love that. The fact that we could spoil the Marlins season and spoil the Phillies season after they have spoiled back-to-back seasons in 07 and 08 would be pretty a bit nice little sweet taste of revenge. So things to look forward to if you're a Mets fan, right? I mean, there are a couple developments to watch before some stuff happened, but Brett Beatty we were keeping an eye on him and he got demoted, and it makes sense. I mean, you look at his numbers, the kid was struggling. He was in his own head. He's now goes down to the minors and he's tearing the cover off the ball. And it's like, I don't know, if you keep doing it for another week or two, I guess we can call you back up, because I don't know that Danny Mendick is the answer at third. Mark Vientos is another guy to keep an eye on. It seems like he hits the ball real hard, but it's always to someone. So, his OPS is below 600. I think he's hitting maybe around 200, maybe less than 200. Feels like he, I don't know how much time he has left up at the major league level. He's getting time now, folks, but he continues to make errors in the field and he's not getting hits. He's not getting on base. So we'll continue to play him, but just for all the Mark Vientos stands, settle. And then Mauricio is the one that I'm most excited about. I think he Anthony DeComo mentioned that he might be going through some fatigue issues because he has been playing, I think he said like 18 straight months of baseball, which is just that'll make anyone want to quit. But since July 16th, Mauricio is batting .228 with a 26.4% strikeout rate. So it feels like maybe, that could be a fatigue thing, or it could be like, all right, I'm kind of tired of playing at this level and I know I'm going to get called up, so I'm going to coast a little bit. That can happen with some younger players, I think. And then Edwin Diaz is eyeing a late September return. Why? If for some miraculous reason we are in the playoff hunt, okay, fine. If we're eliminated from the playoffs, why? Why would you risk it? Why would you even think about that? And the same thing happened with, I think, Syndergaard, with Thor, and with it might have happened one of the seasons with DeGrom, where it's like, we're out of the playoff hunt. There's no reason for you to come back. Maybe this is like, it'll provide you some kind of boost in the short term, but do you think that's going to carry over the long term? Maybe. I don't know. I'd rather not. Same with Starling Marte. Like, obviously, his groin, whatever is ailing him, that has been ailing him, this injury that's dated back a long time, is affecting his play. It's impacting his play. Just shut her down, dude. Shut her down. You're not going to be of any help to us. Again, maybe if there's some miraculous playoff push that we pull it out of our ass, great. But at this point, there's no rush to get back. Like, we've kind of half raised the white flag. It's not like a full raise. And of course, there are reports now coming out that Verlander is a diva and that he didn't get along with Scherzer, which is news to me, my man, because it was like, oh, they both played in Detroit, so they're both familiar with each other and they both like each other and they're friends. And it's like, well, that's not the case. Great, grand, wonderful. So glad we signed him. And of course, both of them are pitching like off the charts, like so well for their respective teams. I know Scherzer did get lit up a little bit in the first portion of his first start for the Rangers, but then settled down. And then his last start was like 7 innings, no runs. So yeah, he's settling in, but I'd still like to see what happens when September rolls around and October, because I honestly think that both those dudes are going to fall off. Odds are. So what are the 2024 Mets? Oh, well, September call-ups. I guess we can go over that. So obviously Ronnie Mauricio is at the top of the list, who I'm most excited to see. But Carlos Cortez is scorching hot right now. Over the last month in AAA, he's hitting .343 with a 1.085 OPS across 83 plate appearances. Plays both the corner outfield spots. Hello. So that could be an interesting call up. Mike Vassell started 2022 at low A, ending the year at AAA. 23 years old. Almost threw a no-hitter, which Gelbs mentioned on one of the recent broadcasts that Gary Cohen spoiled. No big deal. And he does have a 5.48 ERA, which is not great. But he is one of the team's top pitching prospects. And I think even Anthony DeComo has said that he should be in consideration for starting rotation in 2024. Luke Ritter, the Mets' best power threat prospect outside of Mark Vientos, who we've addressed that already. 23 home runs, over 421 plate appearances in AA and AAA. He's 26 years old, walks 15% of the time, which is above average, and can play multiple spots in the infield. So that could be an option there. And he's certainly more intriguing than Jonathan Arauz and Denny Mendick. And then Nate Lavender. The calming, soothing side effects of Nate Lavender. Bullpen arm, AAA. He's a lefty. Love that. 2.63 RA across AA and AAA. Strikes out a ton of people, but also walks a ton of people. Hello, Drew Smith. And his fastball averages around 90 to 91. So it could be cool to see him in September. So those are September call-ups. of those, I mean, they all sound good to me. It's like, I just would love to see them, just to see if the hype is real, see what we got. So Anthony DiComo did a quick rundown of what he believes the 2024 Mets will look like. He believes that Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil, Alvarez, and Marte are locks. I'm not so sure about Marte, although I assume most of the coaching staff and the organization are going to give him a mulligan for 2023. Be like, you know what? Injuries, if you were injury free and you played like this, it would be another thing. Injuries definitely significantly hampered your performance and production. Internal possibilities: Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Ronnie Mauricio. And then almost certainly gone is Daniel Vogelbach, which I think a lot of the fan base would agree with. Insane that we weren't able to deal him at the deadline. I think that kind of speaks to how he underperformed this season. As far as the starting rotation goes, the locks are Kodai Senga and Jose Quintana. The internal possibilities are the guy we just mentioned, Mike Vassell, David Peterson, Tyler McGill. Not exactly thrilled about that starting rotation. I think that's going to be a major area of concern and probably a top priority in free agency, if I had to guess. Almost certainly gone is Carlos Carrasco, which makes a lot of sense after having a pretty decent 2022. Just an atrocious 2023. So I wish him all the best. And then for the bullpen, the locks are Diaz, Ottavino, and Raley, which a lot of people would have liked to see maybe both Ottavino and or Raley dealt, considering their age and declining performance. Internal possibilities: Grant Hardwick, Sam Coonrod, Drew Smith, Phil Bickford, Trevor Gott, Josh Walker, Nathan Lavender. So Nathan Lavender was one of the call-ups we talked about. Bickford was acquired from the Dodgers. We got Gott in a trade. And then Walker, I don't know, has been that great. I think he's on the IL. So the bullpen, we need arms. I know we keep going back and forth of what we need: offense or arms. And it's like, well, if Marte comes back completely 100% healthy in 2024 and can stay healthy for 2024, which is a huge ask, you're looking at a corner outfielder and third baseman to pick up in free agency at minimum. So that's two players there. Starting rotation, you probably need at minimum 3 guys. So that's now 5 players you're looking to acquire in free agency. And then the bullpen, dude. I mean, you probably need another, I don't even know how many arms in the bullpen. So you're looking at more than a hand's worth, almost 2 hands worth of players to really make this roster feel like it's going to be competitive in 2024. Because, even when Lindor and Nimmo and Alonso and McNeil and Alvarez, like if all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those guys are in lockstep and are firing on all cylinders, you can win games. It's just when they're not all firing, that's when you can slip and slide. You know what I'm saying? So that's the Mets. All right, let's talk about the Giants. Okay. As I mentioned, I was only able to watch the first half of this preseason game against the Lions. I was thoroughly impressed with the defense. In the first few series, you had Jason Pinnock picking off the first attempted pass, Dane Belton with interception, Jason Pinnock with, I think, a sack or a tackle for loss, a pass breakup. Jason Pinnock is our starting safety, but it's also very comforting to know that Dane Belton, I don't know what happened last year. I don't know why how he got in the doghouse, but I'm hoping he's corrected that, because it seems like he's a baller and a player, a guy that can make plays. So it would be great if Pinnock is a starter. Man, Belton's a nice insurance layer to have. It stunk that the offense could not capitalize. We didn't have a lot of the starting offensive linemen other than John Michael Schmitz, I believe, and Josh Zudo. Zudo didn't have the best grades from PFF, and I don't know that John Michael Schmitz did either, but I thought he played really well, and I got some pretty good feedback and reception from his play. I didn't think Tyrod Taylor did anything that special. I think he is at the point where he's like, I'm the veteran. You've seen what I can do. Deal with it. Tommy DeVito looked more impressive, but again, that's like a rookie who's trying to make his, put his stamp on his tenure with the team. So I think he threw the ball well. Cole Beasley looked good. I forget how old Cole Beasley is. I think he's in his early 30s. possibly approaching mid-30s. It's nice to see him in a Giants uniform doing that kind of shit and not having to see him do it as a Cowboy, because that was frustrating, him taking a pass underneath and just like turning it into a first down every time. And Deonte Banks looked pretty solid. And it doesn't look like he's had that big of an ego making good plays. He basically ran a route for a receiver. Because he like basically saw what the receiver's running and ran it for him, and then came up and made a great tackle on a tight end. Deep pass to, I think, a rookie wide receiver for the Lions, maybe second-year guy. Receiver extends his hands. He's able to wait until the ball touches the receiver's hands and then strip and rip the receiver's arms to force an incompletion. So it seems like we got a starting corner who's not going to be bad. It's not a DeAndre Baker situation. Please God, I hope it's not a DeAndre Baker situation. And also Trey Hawkins. Like, it's coming out now that Wink is completely comfortable with starting Trey Hawkins on the outside, Banks on the other side, two rookie starting cornerbacks, which I think the last time that happened was maybe 2001 with Will Allen and Will other guy. What the hell was his name? Will Allen and Will Smith. It bothers me to no end that I can't remember. Sensitive 4 years for a Ponzi scheme. Cool. Oh my God. Will Allen and Will Peterson. Oh, geez, God. Wow. So I don't think that's going to be the same situation as 2001, because that was frustrating as fuck coming off a Super Bowl appearance in 2000. I guess this is kind of surprising. We all thought that Darian Beavers had the beat on the starting inside linebacker position opposite Bobby Okereke, and now it looks like it's going to be Micah McFadden. Micah McFadden, I don't know that it was that. He's gotten a lot of praise. I think he's underrated, and I think it's a great underdog story. But from everything that I've seen and heard, it just seems like the guy's got a motor and just plays well. I don't think he's going to do anything that jumps off the tape, but just solid, consistent. But I still think we'll have to see how it plays out, because it would have been nice to see how Darian Beavers played without this injury, because I think the ACL injury, especially with a linebacker, is just fucking. I mean, we all saw what happened with Ryan Connolly. It can just like ruin your career. And Blake Martinez. I think this is from G-Man HQ. Fan-sided, whatever. 4 New York Giants who disappeared during training camp. Their list is Isaiah Hodgins, which I kind of understand. I don't know if it's disappeared. It's just like I haven't heard much about. I think a lot of the focus so far out of training camp has been on Darren Waller, how good he looks, and Jalen Hyatt, how good he looks. We haven't heard a whole lot from Hodgins, but I think that's a good thing. I think he's going to be, we've heard a lot about Slayton, and I think this is a good thing that Hodgins is kind of flying under the radar, because he's a potential 1,000-yard receiver. Slayton is a potential 1,000-yard receiver. So I think that's fine. I'm fine with under the radar. Next one up was pass rusher Azeez Ojulari. I think a lot of people are talking about how Kayvon's going to take a big step in year 2. But we have not seen or heard much from Ojulari, even though, and I think Carl Banks tweeted this, you look at like his performance when he's on the field, if you were to extrapolate, full 16, 17 game season, those are like incredible numbers. So when he does play and he's healthy on the field, he's a performer. He produces. It's just he can't stay on the field. Third up was cornerback Cordell Flott, who I agree. I think he became unstrong towards the end of the last season, as we mentioned. Played well in the playoff game, had that huge pass breakup on that final drive when it was thrown to Jefferson. But yeah, now it's looking like Adoree Jackson's going to be the starting slot. Trey Hawkins is the starting CB2, Deonte Banks CB1. And now where does he fall into the mix? We're not too sure. And then offensive, and then guard Mark Glowinski. It's kind of looking like Ben Brutterson is going to start over Glowinski at right guard, and then you have Azudu starting at left guard. That's kind of the indication I'm getting right now, which I don't know. I mean, Azudu and Brutterson split time last year. Did they both take a major step forward in year two? I don't know. But yeah, Glowinski's kind of going down as kind of a bust free agent signing for Joe Shane. Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence were named to the Athletics 25 under 25 list, which is great to see. So glad that we locked them both up. I think that's huge and sends a signal to the rest of the team that the organization is invested in the future. Something that we have not seen over the past, fucking decade. Daniel Jones rejected the offer to be on Netflix's quarterback, which makes sense. Knowing what I know about the Giants, knowing what I know about Daniel Jones, like the Giants, I don't know if we'll ever see them on Hard Knocks, even though I think there are certain rules and stipulations that indicate they might be forced to be on Hard Knocks at some point. I don't know. The rules on that are very weird, but yeah, I can very easily see why he rejected that offer. And I can very easily see why Neflix, Peyton Manning's Omaha Productions and Patrick Mahomes, his production company, why they were so interested in that. Because it's like, it was like the second or third make or break year for Daniel Jones. But it did feel like the final one, especially after he wasn't extended for a fifth year. It was like, okay, this is it. And so that's where the drama comes in. So yeah, that makes sense why they were after him. And it would have been interesting. I don't know if it would have been more interesting than what we got with Mahomes, Cousins, and Mariota, other than the fact that Jones, I don't believe, is married and doesn't have kids. So it's like you have the married expecting second kid, married expecting two kids, married kid, single dude who's a fucking flip cup champion. And then finally, last two items I have here. There was a draft day trade in place for the Giants to move up where the Bills were and acquire Dalton Kincaid, tight end that the Bills ultimately drafted. And I mean, it would have been interesting, I think. I'm glad with what we came away with, though. I think I much prefer, and I could be eating fucking crow and feet and all the other words after the season, because he could be the next friggin' Travis Kelce. But Shane ended up telling the Bills GM, no, if someone takes our guy, we'll trade with you. And then he saw that Deontay Banks was available and ended up trading up to get Deontay Banks. And I gotta say, can you imagine if we didn't have Deontay Banks right now? I don't know how I'd feel about this season. So no, I'm completely fine with not having Dalton Kincaid. That said, watch Dalton Kincaid become the next Tony Gonzalez. Yikes. Or Anthony Gates. And then finally, the Giants signed offensive tackle Julian Davenport. So that was a major knock on the first, the major come away from the first preseason game against the Lions was like our depth, offensive line depth, is pretty putrid, and we probably need to work on that. And this is probably a result of that. Davenport is I believe he was a former fourth round pick of the Texans back in 2017. He's 28 years old. He was traded to the Dolphins as part of the Laramie Tunsil deal back in 2019. Fucking irony, considering that the Giants were probably in the running for Laramie Tunsil before the whole gas mask pot video. So stupid. But Davenport played out the final year of his 4-year contract before signing with the Colts in 2021. After finishing his contract with the Colts, he signed a 1-year deal with the Bears last April, was cut during camp. He eventually caught on with the Cardinals practice squad later in the season. So, not the cure-all for our woes and our ails, but certainly maybe a better option than what we got going on. I think Corey Cunningham struggled. I don't know that Tyree Phillips played a lot, but I think he came in last year and did a fine job. Tyree Phillips. So yeah, and I know Shane Lemieux actually had a decent Pro Football Focus grade from this first preseason game. So he's trying to save his arse and stay on the roster. Who knows how maybe he turns it around if he's not injured or banged up. So that's the episode. Hopefully I can get to Twisted Metal, Hijack, River Wild, and Don't Worry Darling maybe this weekend or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I got a busy weekend. I got on the Top Golf on Saturday. I might have a brunch type thing going on in Philly on Sunday. Maybe I can do it on Friday night. I don't know. Let's get spicy. So with that, I want to express gratitude. Gratitude. I know, speaking of Strange Planet, that show I started, they don't say thank you. They say gratitude. So gratitude for you, for your ears, your eyes, your mind, your soul. And we'll talk to you soon. Adios, muchachos.